Welcome back to Open BxRx. George Floyd's death sparked protests nationwide. Outcries and powerful signs demanded action and police reform. In response, Democrats recently unveiled a police reform bill gearing towards a shift in law enforcement. Joining us now to discuss the Change the NYPD campaign and hashtag Safer NY Act bills and more is Anthonine Pierre, spokesperson for Communities United for Police Reform. Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
The first thing I want to learn about is the Communities United for Police Reform. Can you just give us a little bit of background on CPR?
Yeah, absolutely. So Communities United for Police Reform is a citywide coalition of organizations that want to work together for police reform. So I'm the deputy director of the Brooklyn Movement Center, and the Brooklyn Movement Center is one of the organizations in CPRS Coalition.
Thank you. And can you tell us about the problems with the current state of the NYPD in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So even anybody who's been living in New York City in a pandemic knows all of the ways that social distancing has been disproportionately enforced in communities of color and specifically for Black people. And then now, the last couple of weeks, we've seen a ton of protests, right? People specifically protesting police violence, but then we've seen retaliatory police violence, both from people actually getting beat on the street to even the mayor instituting a curfew, right? It's hard to not feel like after a week of protesting that a curfew is not meant to sort of stop people from expressing their rights.
And what solutions does CPR propose for the city to approach these type of issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is huge win that we're hoping to be celebrating as soon as the governor signs the bill to repeal 50A. And 50A is what we call the police secrecy bill, right? So it's the law that actually shields police misconduct records from the public. So today in New York City, you cannot find the misconduct records of a police officer, but you can get them for a massage therapist, right? And another piece is that we're running a citywide campaign to defund the NYPD by $1 billion in the next fiscal year. Because, if you want less abusive and discriminatory policing, you've got to put less money in the NYPD budget.
Right. And Anthony, this is coming from the Safer NY Act bills, right? So the Police Stat Act and the recent repeal of the 50A, which you just mentioned. What is the other act, the Police Stat Act, and what do they mean for New York State?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Police Stat Act is it's what we call a data reporting bill, right? So it's a bill that will require all of the municipalities in New York State to hold data about police stops, right? So if they stop people, they need to save data on where those stops were, who those people were, what the demographics were, so that we can start to understand, even outside of New York City, what does abusive and discriminatory policing look like?
Got it. And please tell us more about the demands to defund the police. When people say, cut the NYPD budget and NYC budget justice, what are the proposed budget cuts and what would they mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. Most people don't know that the NYPD budget is $5.6 billion. And the NYPD budget is more than the combined budgets of the Department of Homeless Services, the Department of Youth and Community Development, Department of Health, and workforce investment all combined, right? So we're here to say, look, we're in a pandemic. Coming out of a pandemic, we're going to need money in those agencies and not so much in the NYPD. So when we say, hashtag budget justice or defund the NYPD, we're not saying let's just get rid of the NYPD's budget. We're saying that some of that budget during a crisis needs to be reallocated to social services because our society needs services.
Right. Can we emphasize on that a little more, Anthony? Tell us about the importance of allocating this funding to underserved and over-policed Black and Brown communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we talk about the policing that happens in our neighborhoods, that policing is happening instead of the social services, right? So your local police precinct is always going to have all the new anti-terrorism tools, right, that are really expensive. But are they always going to have community center? Are they always going to have summer youth employment? Are they always going to have emergency food delivery? So, and when you're coming out of a pandemic, what we really are going to need is to take care of people so much more than we're going to need like anti-terrorism units.
Got it. And is CPR trying to lead in the states enacting these new bills and proposed acts? Is this not happening anywhere else yet?
Yeah, I mean, what's really great about repealing 50A is that we're actually one of the last states in the United States that has a police secrecy law. So, you know, when Governor Cuomo signs the bill to repeal 50A, it'll kind of be like New York State is catching up to the rest of the country, right? Which is not how we like to think of New York State, which makes it even that much more important for us to get rid of police secrecy.
Got it. And what is next for CPR? How can people join the cause, donate, stay in touch, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Just hit change the NYPD.org on your computer or your cell phone, tablet, like however you go online.
One more thing, Anthony. So I know that as part of the Safer NY Act bills, there's one more accomplishment that CPR is trying to make. Which one is that? What act are you trying to make?
I'm so happy you brought that one up. So it's a special prosecutor bill. And if folks remember when Eric Garner was killed by police in 2014 in Staten Island, there was some issues with the jury, right? And it wasn't really clear if the district attorney in Staten Island was able to really give a fair trial because of the relationships that district attorneys have with local police. So the special prosecutor bill, we actually passed an executive order back in 2015. But the thing about executive orders is that any executive can undo them, right? Like Cuomo or anyone else could decide, let's just get rid of it. So it's important to have the special prosecutor bill because you can't just undo a bill as easily as an executive order. And we want to make sure that as far as going forward, that the attorney general is established as a special prosecutor who will prosecute police in cases of killings of unarmed civilians, like what happened with Eric Garner in 2014.
Got it. Thank you, Anthony. Another thing, sorry, I forgot to mention, there's also a Know Your Rights brochure that CPR has created. Can people access that on the website as well for free?
I'm not quite sure if we have the whole thing up on the website, but at the very least, you should be able to go on change.nypd.org and request it.
Anthony, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate
it.
Thanks, Sonyi. Of course. Folks, to stay up to date with Communities United for Police Reform, you can visit changethenYPD.org, follow CPR on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ChangeTheNYPD, and text JUSTICE at 877-877 for updates via mobile. Open BxRx, we'll be right back.